So, 2020. Hey everyone, I'm Chris. I'm an artist, author, publisher, creator, and entrepreneur. Here on the Cluttered Kraken, we discuss creativity, creating on a budget, and what it's like to be a self-employed geek chasing his passions. If that sounds interesting to you, make sure you hit subscribe and the little notification bell so you don't miss a video. So in this series of videos, we are going to talk about 2020 and how it's affected my business, my life, my world, my creativity, and even just the way I think about things in just this short 6 to 4 months that things have gone crazy. So this initially started out as a series of blog posts and social media updates and like little quickie videos I was doing, but I decided to do a YouTube series based off of those as sort of a record of how crazy this year has been for us, and also just as a way to sort of put out there what we've been going through, how hard it's been, and how important it is to continue to evolve, push forward, and strive to follow your dreams. First, a little background. My name is Chris. I'm an artist and author. My wife and I own a company called Deeply Dapper. We're both creators. We actually run a line of alchemy products, soaps, candles, beard oils that we hand make. We design all the artwork and fragrances. We make them ourselves. And then between that, our books and our artwork, we sell at comic conventions full time. So we usually do about 20 to 35 conventions a year, which means we are typically on the road a lot, usually every other weekend, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on where they all group together. Most of these shows we do together, and we drive everywhere because the United States is super cool, and it's fun doing road trips and seeing more of the country as we go. It's also a lot of work. It's something that a lot of people that know us but don't know what we do for a living don't understand how hard it is to do conventions for a living. You're on the road. A lot of the times you will blow into a town, set up your booth, work for the weekend from sun up to sundown, crash, not literally, but in bed, and then pack up and leave town again. And sometimes that's a necessity because you only have so long between shows, and a lot of the times we had to get back here to resupply, order new prints, make more candles to sell. And it was a nonstop, hard, but incredibly rewarding process. You make a family doing it. It's a little bit like a scattered carny system thing where it's old-timey carnival blows into town, throws up some shiny lights, the carnies arrive in their various little Winnebagos and things, they throw up their booths, they shill the locals, and then they leave town. And as we've done shows, we've been doing them for about 7 years now, we've really built up a family of these other artists and creatives and salesmen and celebrities that go to these shows, and it's probably one of the most rewarding, amazing things I've ever done, but it's also one of the hardest things. Sometimes it's a really rewarding job financially, sometimes it's a really rewarding job emotionally, and sometimes that's enough. When Deeply Dapper became a thing, I was working for Walgreens as an executive assistant manager in Maine, of all places. And my wife was working for a hotel. She was a night desk clerk. But we'd always been creative. We'd been selling our little Sasquatch decal stickers online for years at that point. And we kind of just stumbled across a few things we were selling that were doing really well. We'd been picked up on Reddit a couple of times, just purely virally. We were finally making enough money that we were like, let's take what we're doing and let's see if we can make a career out of it. Neither of us loved our jobs. I was at a point working for big corporate retail that I was miserable. I didn't want my own store, even if there was a chance I would get one. And living out in Maine, there weren't a lot of opportunities. So we looked at everything we had and everything we were doing, and we were like, look, if we make sacrifices and we really want this enough, we can make something of this. Let's take our world, bundle it up, and go back to Idaho. So moving back to Pocatello meant we had a couple of things. We had a support structure in place because we're from here originally. So we have family that can help take care of our dogs. It's not a big town. It's a college town, but it's a weird college town. It's not what you picture when you hear college town. But we do have a Costco and a hospital and a museum and a comic shop and a bookstore. Like the essentials, so to speak. There's a good coffee shop here. That's essential. The other important thing is that moving back to Idaho meant we could live on a budget. We shopped around and we looked at other alternatives, and it just kind of worked out that this is where we ended up again. But the simple fact was Pocatello is cheap to live. We got the house that we are in right now for $100,000, and it's a house that is fairly good size. We're on a quarter of an acre. We've got outbuildings. We've got a garage that I can do all of the crazy things I need to do in. Looking at the country and knowing what we wanted to do and following our passion, we knew that it was going to be a long time before we were really making money off of it, if ever. May still not happen, we'll see. But the important thing with it was that we could live here on a fairly tight budget. It's a safe town. It kind of fueled our decision to make the jump. We took what we had in Maine, we sold everything, we loaded up the cars, we drove back to Idaho, and we started doing conventions. Moving from doing that for fun and semi-full-time and selling online to doing it full-time is a tremendous change. For you artists out there that haven't done it yet, make sure you're certain that that's the right move for you before you quit everything and start doing it, because there is some very massive inconsistencies between the two things. There is a show this week that will do amazing and you will make thousands of dollars more than it cost you to do, and then you will do a show the next week that you will lose $1,000, and you have to be in a position that that's doable and that it's not going to break your spirit more than anything. But we adjusted to it. I'm sure we'll talk more about the world of Comic-Cons if Comic-Cons ever come back and we start doing them again full time. Right now, Comic-Cons are dead. And that's what happened in March. That's 2020 for us, really. The beginning of the year was just sort of the usual. We were booking shows. We were doing shows. We'd only done a couple before this, let's call it the plague, because I've heard that YouTube has been marking videos that use certain words in association with certain events that are happening right now. So we're going to call it a plague. So the plague hit. We were doing a show in Layton, Utah that's one of our favorite shows. It's called SaltCon, and it's a board game convention where you go, they have this massive library of board games. You can check them out, play them, return them, check out another game. And we were working the vendor room like we always do there. Love that show. It's super chill. It's really laid back. Everybody's there to have a good time. There's no celebrities or anything like that, unless you count game designers as celebrities, which I kind of do. Things started hitting the fan. Things started looking a lot more serious for the United States regarding the plague than it had previously. And we'd had some concerns. We'd had some worries. You don't do as many shows in as many states as you do as a Comic-Con guy without realizing how connected the United States is, but also how totally disconnected we are about things. And we knew that if this hit the US, it was going to be tricky and it was going to be weird. And there were parts of the country that were going to get hit hard, fast. That's pretty much what happened. Our next convention we had scheduled, this was March 9th, I believe, was the weekend that this occurred. Our next scheduled convention was in Seattle for Emerald City Comic Con. We were incredibly excited about that show. It was the first time doing it. We tried to get into it for years. Seattle's a magnificent city and they love us there. We've done a couple of smaller shows, so we were incredibly excited about that show. We had prepped for months making candles and soaps and inventory, promoting the hell out of it. I don't know if you guys remember, but one of the first big outbreaks of the plague was in the Pacific Northwest. And we heard word at SaltCon that weekend that the next weekend was canceled. And just like that, boom, 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 every convention this year canceled, postponed, relisted, depending on what words they use. As the plague continued to grow and spread and the lockdown happened and everything else, it became clearer and clearer that conventions were over for 2020. What that also means is all that money that we put towards shows, and it's not minimal. Most of these shows cost between $300 and $2,000 to do as a vendor. And that money is literally out in the ether right now. The promoters, they have that money still. It's kind of the cost of doing business, but we haven't lost our spot. We've just lost that money, I guess is how I should put it. Every single show we were scheduled to do in 2020 has rescheduled for 2021 or 2022 in one case. And our money is still with that convention, which means the thousands of dollars that we paid towards tables are still paid towards tables, but they're towards tables that we're not going to see money on for like 12 months if we're lucky at this point. Now what that means is that not only do we not have income coming in, but the money that we made at the first of the year that we piled into these shows is also off in the ether somewhere. So March was tough. March was probably, up to that point, one of the hardest years we'd had as a creator and as a self-employed entrepreneur type person. That did not get any easier for us, frankly. I think what this series is going to be is just sort of a step-by-step through the madness that 2020 was for us. And believe it or not, every show that we had planned getting canceled, the country going on lockdown, all of our plans for 2020 getting canceled was actually just the tip of the iceberg for Deeply Dapper and for our family in general. So stay tuned, because it actually gets weirder and crappier from here. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit subscribe, hit that bell, and you'll get notified about all the other videos we put out. If you'd like to support us or the channel, there are links in the description to our Patreon page, which is also our geeky magazine we do called Tabletops and Tentacles, which is a celebration of role-playing games, board games, comics, film. We do book reviews in there. There's short fiction, a little bit of everything. I do a lot of the art and the writing, but we also have a lot of really talented, creative geeks contributing to the magazine as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really want these type of vlogs here to convey some of what it's like to be an artist and a creative in an industry as uncertain as a comic convention lifestyle is, but also just sort of how to find your creativity and your inspiration in weird, dark times. Expletive, expletive. Thanks for watching, everyone.